HRW warned that the new EU-US trade deal threatens to weaken the EU's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive, a key law requiring companies to address climate change, human rights, and environmental harms in their supply chains. Under pressure from US companies and fossil fuel lobbyists, the trade deal framework commits the EU to revise the law's climate obligations while also locking in $750 billion in EU purchases of US fuel and nuclear energy. HRW urged the European Parliament to resist US influence in the industry pressure and to defend the directive as essential for climate action, accountability, and protecting communities from corporate abuse. HRW urged the UN Security Council to act urgently to protect civilians in Sudan, where the Rapid Support Forces and the Sudanese Armed Forces have committed unlawful attacks, imposed siege, and blocked humanitarian aid, leaving civilians starving. The Rapid Support Forces' year-long siege of El Fasher and attacks on displacement camps have resulted in mass killings, sexual violence, pillage, and starvation amounting to war crimes, while the Sudanese Armed Forces airstrikes have also killed civilians in Kordofan. The HRW called on the Security Council to expand the arms embargo to all of Sudan, impose target sanctions on leaders of both warring parties, and consider deploying a civilian protection mission. Human Rights Watch warned that the new U.S. government rules barring federal-funded disaster aid groups from assisting undocumented immigrants undermine basic human rights principles. Such restrictions risk forcing organizations like the Red Cross or Salvation Army to check IDs before providing life-saving food, shelter, or rescue potentially leading to discrimination during crisis. The HRW stressed that humanitarian aid should be guided by the universal principle of shared humanity, not immigration status, especially in times of disaster. Belarusian authorities have labeled the Belarusian Association of Human Rights Lawyers, BAHRL, an extremist formation, escalating their crackdown on independent lawyers and exposing members and associates to possible prison sentences of up to 10 years. Since the 2010 mass protests, dozens of lawyers defending politically targeted clients have faced license revocations, fines, arrests, and harassment, with 7 currently imprisoned on fabricated charges. Human Rights Watch urged Belarus to end this politically motivated persecution of the legal profession and restore lawyers' ability to work independently and without fear of reprisal. Amnesty International reported that on the 22nd of July 2025, unknown individuals raided the home of Dora Roblero, director of the Fray Bartolomé de las Casas Human Rights Center, CDH Fraiba, in Chiapas, Mexico. The organization called on the Ministry of the Interior and the Federal Protection Mechanisms to urgently ensure the safety of Robledo and CDH Fraiba staff. It also urged the Chiapas State Attorney's General Office to investigate the raid and any other attacks against the group. Amnesty International and dozens of Afghans and international civil society groups have urged the UN Human Rights Council to establish an independent international accountability mechanism for Afghanistan to investigate past and ongoing human rights abuses and crimes under international law. They highlight the Taliban's escalating repression, including gender persecution of minorities, suppression of dissent, and widespread atrocities, as well as decades of impunity for crimes committed by previous governments and armed forces. The letter calls for urgent action at the Council's 60th session to ensure justice, truth, reparations for victims, and accountability for perpetrators, alongside renewing and resourcing the mandate of the UN Special Rapporteur on Afghanistan. Amnesty International has urged the Polish authorities to drop the criminal investigations into Dr. Gisela Jagielska, who lawfully performed a late-term abortion in 2024 to protect her patient's health as permitted under Polish law. Instead of facing persecution and violent harassment, including threats and forced citizens' arrest by a far-right politician, Dr. Jagielska should be protected as a human rights defender, ensuring access to essential healthcare. Amnesty calls on Poland to safeguard abortion providers, investigate attacks against them, and reform its restrictive abortion laws to guarantee safe, legal, and timely access to abortion in line with international human rights standards. Amnesty International warns that the extreme market dominance of big tech companies Alphabet, Meta, Microsoft, Amazon, and Apple give them outsized control over digital infrastructure and online engagement. The concentrated power allows them to shape access to information, privacy, and equality for billions of people worldwide, with serious human rights implications. Amnesty argues that tackling this market concentration is essential to protect fundamental rights in the digital age. Amnesty International condemned the continued lack of accountability for China's crimes against humanity in Xinjiang 3 years after a UN report confirmed grave abuses against Uyghur, Kazakhs, and other Muslim minority. Families of detainees told Amnesty that they remain cut off from their loved ones, enduring years of silence, separation, and repression, while the international community has failed to act on the UN's recommendations. Amnesty urged the UN member states to establish an independent investigative mechanism, provide justice and reparation for victims, and apply real pressure on China to end the ongoing repression.